What's a fact you thought everyone knew, but turns out they didn't? That our sun is a star. I had to convince a grown woman of this fact today. She thought I was making it up to tell my child. Working with computers, electronics don't like getting wet, and, most likely, will stop working shortly after coming in contact with it. The computer room is the only place where fire and water are both signs of a problem. That the moon has gravity. No, it doesn't. Then why don't the astronauts just float off? Because they're wearing heavy boots. Agonized cry of metaphysical pain. This hurt me on more than an emotional level. Mars is very cold, not very hot. I get the misconception being that it's red and all, but I had always assumed it was common knowledge until recently. But it's even logical, like it's further from the sun and has no atmosphere. That Alaska is not an island, and people will argue with me about it. I've driven from New York City to Alaska 12 times. Well, that's a drive. On the 4th of July, 1776, a lot of the American founding fathers were actually pretty young. Alexander Hamilton was only 21. Thomas Jefferson was 33. Lafayette was 18. So was James Monroe. James Madison was 25. John Jay was 31. John Trumbull and Aaron Burr were 20, etc. On the other end of the spectrum, George Washington was 44, Benjamin Franklin was 70, Comte de Rochambeau was 51, and, across the sea, King George was 38. Source: my sparse memories from history class and the internet. Pretty sure Hamilton's birth year differs depending on source. Not sure. Also, happy Independence Day from 2 days ago to the Americans of Reddit. This fact makes the Boston Tea Party sound like a bunch of frat boys getting drunk and thought it would be a good idea hilarious to dress up as Indians and dump tea in the water. In some basic geography, one of many red flags from a guy I was dating was his failure to know, at 22 years old and having traveled to DC, that Washington State and Washington DC are different places. Similar thing happened recently with a co-worker who thought that Spain was located in Central America. SMH. As a non-American, this still confused me. Why would you do this to yourselves? Antibiotics don't work against viruses. For example, the cold or the flu. Certain STDs are curable by antibiotics. Chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis. Antibiotics also don't work against fungal infections. You'd think it would be obvious, but more than one of my goofy butt family members have taken leftover penicillin they had in their cabinet for valley fever. Bonus points for the fact that they had leftover antibiotics from not properly finishing a course of them earlier. White people here in the US Southwest typically have no clue that Spaniards are as white as any other European nationality. Spanish equals Mexican here. That using a minus sign in most search engines blocks out content tagged or related to the thing you subtract. Found out it's not commonly known when someone said they really liked femboy furry pee, but when trying to find pee of it they started getting a lot of My Little Pony pee, so then I told him he could type MLP to block it out on E621. That took a twist. That dinosaurs existed. Cue my religious aunt telling me that the bones are not real and were intentionally placed by people trying to turn people pagan. This just happened the other day. I was the only one in the room that knew that Houston meant the town when Apollo 11 said Houston, we have a problem. Everyone else thought it was code name. Also, the quote is erroneous. The actual dialogue was, Swigert, okay, Houston, we've had a problem here. Lausmer, this is Houston. Say again, please. Lovell, Houston, we've had a problem. Lovell, we've had a main B bus undervolt. Lausmer, Roger, main B undervolt. Lausmer, okay, stand by. 13, we're looking at it. P.S. Houston is a city. I recently was having dinner with a bunch of educated middle-aged people. None of them knew what stars were. I still can't get over it. Diamonds are not as rare as made to believe. They're just choked by one company who boasts that their imperfect diamonds are superior to artificial diamonds. And they're in deep crap because lab-grown diamonds are incredibly difficult to identify as such compared to mined diamonds. And lab-grown diamonds are much cheaper. Company is De Biz BTW. That small tab on the bottom of the rear view mirror is for nighttime driving so you don't get glare from headlights behind you. Found the guy with the older car. Just general knowledge of doing things around the house. I don't mean mechanical knowledge, but thinking for yourself. You'd be surprised how many people cannot put together something from IKEA or level a picture on the wall. Also, people like this rely on a friend, relative, their parents, etc. to help them with all of these things. It's not like spreading the wet curtain out after showering will make it dry faster. Yes, it will. Says who? Science. That there is no large icy landmass at the North Pole. I was dumbfounded to find out my girlfriend wasn't joking when she looked at a map in my room and said, wait, where's Arctica? One of my favorite parts of the Top Gear Arctic special was when May breaks out the gin and tonic while they are driving. Clarkson pointed out that technically they weren't drinking and driving because they were sailing. That fan in your bathroom isn't there to ventilate air after you take a smelly crap. It's there to get rid of excessive moisture from the shower, tub, or sink so that you don't get mold. Helping with the smell is just a bonus. Dolphins, whales, and porpoises are mammals. Below are just things that would be a bit nifty to know. There are 5,280 feet in a mile. There is no such thing as reverse racism. It's all just racism. The max C your tire says it can hold is nowhere near the correct C you should actually put in your tire. It differs from car to car. Most regular cars will be around 32-35. There should be a placard on the inside of your driver door, either on the door itself or the door sill. That will tell you what it should be inflates to. Tires age and can become a greater hazard to drive on the older they are. Even if you almost never drive on them, they can become a hazard if they are old enough. A solid low tire pressure warning light typically means low tire pressure. A blinking one means there is something wrong with the sensors, usually being that they are dead, dying and need to be replaced. Quite a lot of tire facts. That humans and dinosaurs didn't coexist. In the past, my dad has done business with a guy who is an uber religious, the earth is flat and 6,000 years old type. Dad said to me, never work with a man who believes the Flintstones is a documentary. That our 3 territories are actually part of Canada. It's insane how many times I have had to tell people that, no, the Yukon is not part of Alaska. What's sadder is it's usually a freaking Canadian asking. That mice give birth to live young. Had a friend who chimed in on a conversation about a mouse infestation to remark how gross it is that they lay their eggs inside the walls. Sounds like they didn't just have mice. I was pretty sure we all agreed that the earth was a globe. Was quite a shock when I discovered flat earthers were real. That orbiting the earth is not a super precise thing. I've come across more than a few people that thought that if you go even a little too fast or too slow you are going to fall back to earth or be launched into deep space. I often have to remind them that the moon and the ISS are not the same distance from earth. I really thought that everyone knew to use direct address commas in their writing. Suppose you wanted to invite your friend Bob over for dinner. You might write the following, comma, let's eat, Bob. That comma indicates that you're talking to Bob, written without the comma, let's eat Bob. The sentence is a proposal of cannibalism. You might also want to gather a group of people together, perhaps by writing this, comma, come on, everyone. If you left out the comma, though, you'll be commanding someone undefined to commit a sex crime, comma, come on everyone. There could even be moments when you wanted to motivate a team, so you'd write, comma, let's get busy, people. But if you left out the comma, you'd be suggesting the mass murder of anyone with a job, comma, let's get busy people. Remember, something as small as a single comma is the difference between a pleasant evening and a felony. TLDR. Direct address commas keep you from accidentally proposing gory crimes. The song Come On Eileen has no direct address comma. I'm just saying. Video game patch notes. I see the game update. My first thought is what changed. I guess some people just don't care. God, I remember when Mercy got her Volk rework in Overwatch. The enemy Mercy took off and 2 of my teammates just started flipping the frick out. This only applies to British people, but the fact that London Mayor Sadiq Khan and Home Secretary Sajid Javid are different people. They're not even in the same party. No, seriously, I found out that not everyone knew this a few hours ago and I'm still shocked. But they look exactly the same. 2 eyes, 2 ears, a nose. The Queen of England is also the Queen of Canada, Australia, Jamaica, Belize, New Zealand, etc. All those countries are a part of the British Commonwealth realm where Queen Elizabeth is the reigning monarch and head of state. I'm not British and I don't know how I know this. Barrier protection during oral sex is available. They're called dental dams. Apparently everybody didn't pay attention during health class. Or most likely, their sex ed curriculum was sadly abstinence only or heavy on the abstinence, and never taught what a dental dam is. That the earth is spherical and not a flat plane like fricking Asgard. Seriously, flat earthers need to go find the edge of the world and fricking jump off. I get through the day by assuming that the vast majority of flat earthers are just trolling. That insects are animals. I've had multiple co-workers, smart people, multiple degrees, argue that, no, insects are bugs, not animals. That water flows from the mountains eventually to lakes, oceans, and not the other way around. Not entirely sure how it came up, but I mentioned to my high school girlfriend about something being upriver, and she thought I meant towards the ocean. She then attempted to tell me that water flows in from the ocean, making up our rivers and eventually lakes. She had no concept of fresh water running down from the mountains whatsoever. She also tried to defend herself by saying it was more ridiculous that I didn't know how to make Rice Krispie treats. Not that I couldn't, I just never had made them before. Needless to say, we aren't together anymore. That ponies aren't baby horses. I loved learning about all different types of animals when I was younger, so I've always remember knowing this. Imagine my surprise when I found out my boyfriend, at 18, was not, in fact, joking about calling a pony a baby horse. There is an arrow pointing to the side of the car has the gas tank on it in your instrument panel, so you never need to guess or ask. Well, to be fair, some cars do not have this feature, so it could be understood why some people don't know. That women have 3 orifices down below. A girl I worked with 10 years ago thought that there were only 2. She thought she peed and menstruated out of the same one, so she would take out her tampon anytime she needed to pee. She learned this from her mother. I feel like a lot of people don't realize Alaska is like half the size of the continental US. Also, I have met a handful of people who thought it was an island because it's always shown in the bottom corner next to Hawaii. That the ISS is in constant free fall, which is how it and the astronauts inside float. The amount of adults who think the ISS isn't being affected by gravity boggle my mind. How do you think that it doesn't float off into space? If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.